to try and duck it in the way that he did and hide behind process. We were squirming. The backbenchers on the Labour benches were just going, oh, for God's sake, get on with it. Just admit.
Most catastrophic lapse in judgment you can imagine. I think it's clear the Prime Minister should do the right thing and step down, because actually the rut runs right throughout the Labour government. This is a man in Keir Starmer.
Did you say that then? Because a lot of people didn't say that then. It was in plain sight, that issue. I mean, is Keir Starmer's days numbered because of how it looks now, Barry?
That is not the opposition attacking him. That is not a rival party taking a cheap shot. That is his own side openly questioning whether the Prime Minister should still be in the job. And when the people sitting behind you start using phrases like step down and lapse in judgment, it tells you everything. This isn't a communications problem. This isn't bad headlines. This is authority collapsing in real time. And once that starts, every answer sounds weaker, every excuse sounds rehearsed, and every colleague starts distancing themselves. Watch carefully now, because from this point on, the pressure never lets up.
Paddy, look, the first thing I want to say is, having listened to the Jouffres, we need to listen to victims and not to the voice of the gilded elite who think they're untouchable.
Is that what the Prime Minister did when he appointed Peter Mandelson?
I think the Prime Minister today made an admission which I think everybody in that chamber knew he had to make, but which he resisted making, as Nick says, twice already. And you cannot hide behind process and say, well, this is the process we followed. He should have come straight out and he should have said, look, I need to say I made a big mistake here, a mistake of judgment. I believed the lies that I was told, and that is on me. I got it wrong. Now, he could have then said whatever he wanted to about the reasons he thought Mandelson had a good relationship with Trump, or whatever he wanted to say. But to try and duck it in the way that he did and hide behind process, we were squirming. The backbenchers on the Labour benches were just going, oh, for God's sake, get on with it. Just admit it. The public look at this and they say, yeah, typical politician, won't tell you straight.
Yes. Arlene, did you agree that this Labour MP is telling Nick his authority seemed to ebb as he would not answer Kemi Badenoch's question 1, 2 or third time?
I think when he answered it, when he finally said, yes, I did, no, you know, and you could feel his authority going away at that time. And I mean, just to pick up on Barry's point, this whole sorry saga is about powerful men in positions of authority and women and girls being trafficked across the world, it seems, to be used and abused. And very, very sadly, Virginia Giuffre is not here today. She took her own life, presumably because of everything that had happened. So I think absolutely the victims have to be centre stage in this whole thing, and then the political farce that is going on at the moment about who knew what when comes secondary.
But can I say that all of guests here want to talk about victims, and we've tried to respect in the earlier part of the conversation.
Sure.
But can I ask you, Zach, to talk to me about the Prime Minister? What contrast would you make to the man at the dispatch box today and the pursuing Boris Johnson with his moral compass pointing north?
Well, when Keir Starmer was head of public prosecutions, it was all about his judgment, his forensic ability to ask the right questions. And here we see the most catastrophic lapse in judgment you can imagine. I think it's clear the Prime Minister should do the right thing and step down, because actually the rut runs right throughout the Labour government. This is a man in Keir Starmer who knew that Peter Mandelson was friends with one of the most known paedophiles in the world, was still staying in his apartment, and he brought him into the heart of government solely because, I imagine, he thought he could whisper in Trump's ear.
And did you say that then? Because a lot of people didn't say that then. It was in plain sight, that issue. I mean, is Keir Starmer's days numbered because of how it looks now, Barry?
Look.
This is where it turns from awkward to fatal. Notice what they're attacking. Not policy, not ideology, not party politics, his judgment. And that's the one thing a Prime Minister cannot afford to lose. Because if your judgment goes, everything else goes with it. Every appointment looks shady, Every relationship looks suspect. Every decision feels reckless. You can hear it in their voices now. They're not defending him anymore. They're distancing themselves. Carefully, politely, but unmistakably.
Right? One man, one word. Change. Yeah. That's what we promised. That was the whole of what we as the Labour Party promised this country. Change. This looks more like the same.
Should he step down?
I think that he needs to think very hard about what is in the country's best interest
So yes.
and what is in his party's best
So
interest.
it's a veiled yes. You're saying that you don't want to say it, but you're saying it with your eyes. Arlene, you led a party. What flex point is this for the leader of this one?
Well, I have to say, once you start losing your colleagues around you, and once your colleagues are saying the sort of things that were being said today, then you really have to think about whether you have the ability to lead from the front again.
There's other serious consequences. So Palantir, this is the spy tech firm, $260 million last month, the biggest defence budget in UK history. That was lobbied by Global Counsel, which was Peter Mandelson's lobbying group, alongside Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, close friend of Peter Mandelson. I've written to the Health Secretary today to say we have to break that contract. It also has crucial data on our healthcare system. So the idea that this defence company from the US has its fingerprints all over our healthcare system alongside Peter Mandelson is a whole range of questions that need answers urgently.
Let me be clear. Keir Starmer as a project came about from somebody who had been the protege of Mandelson and who is now the Chief of Staff. There's connectivity, and to use your historical analogy, the guy at the top is not the only thing here. There are barons, and when the barons begin to feel that they're under pressure, it's a very dangerous time for the Prime Minister. And there is so much that is dependent upon what Mandelson, through the Chief of Staff, then has initiated, and the people who are now in positions as ministers that have been dependent upon that whole process.
Okay.
That means this is not just one man at the top.
But
you're talking about an aristocracy within the party.
You've named the Chief of Staff in particular. Just changing Morgan Mc...
To say, I spotted that in the chamber. So I made a point of going in for the last half an hour of the debate. Angela Rayner was sitting there, and her face and the sea of Labour MPs, they were sitting largely in silence, they were stony-faced, and they looked angry. But obviously I made a point of coming out of the debate to canvass opinion, and these are the sort of opinions I picked up, Paddy. So a minister said to me, it's shameful, it's embarrassing. A backbencher said to me, you could see the Prime Minister shrinking in front of our eyes. I don't see how he survives. And this is from a loyalist. This is so sad. I think power is moving irretrievably to the Labour left.
Oh, for God's sake. For God's sake. And if that is what Labour loyalists think that this is...
Good. By Kemi Badenoch on where his judgment was.
Yeah, and I think that's a very fair question, and I think she was on top form today, if I may say so, in terms of how she performed in comparison to the Prime Minister, who looked incredibly under pressure, so much so that his hand was shaking at one point. So the man is under incredible pressure. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I do agree with Barry that he should have been upfront around what he knew instead of having to be questioned about it in the fashion that he was.
I should just say on that point of loyalty, since we've been on air, I've had a Labour MP texting me saying we need to be loyal to the Prime Minister. Too many of my colleagues, he said, are addicted to opposition. But just to continue what I picked up, one minister said to me, we're smiling, but it's delirium. And then another backbencher said that was Keir's worst performance at PMQs. Keir Starmer's authority and his position as Prime Minister has been substantially weakened today, partly because there were difficulties in the Commons, but mainly because it crystallised a feeling that he showed very, very poor judgment in this appointment. And what you saw from those stony faces not just amongst backbenchers, amongst ministers. You just saw them standing there, is you thought, this is clearly very, very difficult, and you wonder whether he can recover.
This wasn't just an interview. It wasn't just a rough debate. And it definitely wasn't just one bad appointment. This is a pattern. You saw it happen step by step. The dodging, the hesitation, the hiding behind, process. The refusal to just say 3 simple words, I got it wrong. And when leaders can't admit fault, something worse happens. Trust drains away. Not dramatically, not with one scandal, but slowly. Like today, colleagues stop defending you. Ministers start calling it shameful. Backbenchers say you're shrinking. Loyalists whisper that you're finished. That's not media spin. That's political survival instinct. Because leadership is judgment. Nothing more complicated than that. The country doesn't expect perfection. It expects honesty, strength, clarity. And what they saw instead was a man cornered, nervous, and evasive. You felt it. Every time a straight answer should have come and didn't. This is why trust is gone. Because if a prime minister can't handle one direct moral question without squirming, how can anyone trust him with the country's future? So be honest with yourself. Is this incompetence or cowardice? And would you trust people like this to run the country? If you want politics without the spin, like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell